From inside TD Garden, where the Boston Celtics just fell to the Indiana Pacers 117 to 112, but that certainly didn't paint the whole picture, right, Bobby? I am Josue Pavon. He is Bobby Manning. The Celtics got down by 30. This was a case of two halves, as Joe Mazzulla put it. The second half, the Celtics did their best to even the score, but they never got to that point. They managed to make it a two-possession game. Got within six, but they never got to the point where you thought that they could actually win this game. I mean, one would say that they ran out of time, right, Bobby?
Yep.
Another person would say if you play better in that first half, especially against a hot team like the Indiana Pacers, or who certainly got it going from behind the arc, maybe this thing doesn't happen yet. How do you put it, Bobby? What happened here between the Celtics and the Pacers?
They didn't show up in the opening minutes. One good run. Pacers hit back with one of their own. Haliburton was great early. He had some big hustle plays from Aaron Nesmith, of course. And the rebounding, offensive rebounding makes a huge difference for them. Second chance points. I was just trying to figure out post-game what happened. Joe didn't know in terms of why they didn't show up. Malcolm didn't sense anything wrong at shoot-around or in the hours leading up to this game. So for some reason or another, this isn't the Magic. This isn't one of those bottom feeder teams. They're not a great team in Indiana, but the Celtics just weren't there early. They turned up the heat defensively in the second half, and that's how you work back to within 5 as they did there. But you're right. You go down 30, you don't have the time to come back. They had to make up pretty much that whole deficit in about 16 minutes after a nice burst out of halftime. I got within 22 or so, cut it to 11, cut it to 5, and then clock strikes 0. Don't love that call at the end there, but that would have only pulled you within 1. You're going down 30 in a game. It's going to take a Jason Tatum 60 bomb like we saw a couple of years ago to get you back in it, no matter who you're playing against.
And Tatum did finish with 41, a team high 40, or game high rather, 41 points for the Celtics, but it wasn't enough. And I felt like he sort of turned into angry Tatum, right? He got slapped across the face on one possession, didn't get the call he wanted, and he took it out on the court, right? It didn't take him out of his flow of things.
How about that dunk on Nesmith?
The dunk on Nesmith, that was another big part in this one. But it just wasn't enough. How come the Indiana Pacers just managed to keep the Celtics at bay? I mean, clearly, obviously, 30 points is a heck of an advantage. It's a lot to come back from. But the Celtics, they managed to do it. They had those stretches where they seemed like they were one run away from pulling closer than they ever did tonight. But the Indiana Pacers fought right back.
Yeah, offensive rebounds again. Those second chance points. Duarte's 3. At the end of the clock. A bunch of different plays, and Tatum kind of rattled them off. Cost them in this game. Hauser almost got a steal. There was another play where they almost got a steal, and it turned into an Indiana 3 once they got to 11. So it goes back to 14 twice. You just sort of end up taking those steps back when you go down by that much. And felt like the Pacers, to some degree, just wanted to let Tatum get his, and no one else was going to be able to contribute from then on. Closed out hard, made guys pass. I think Celtics hesitated on a lot of their shots. Brown was indecisive in what was essentially a terrible game here from him. Brogdon, similar issues there. And defensively, the Celtics just didn't have it. I'm still wondering if they can hang their head on that end of the floor. It was nice to see them go double big at the end and experiment with that a little bit. But again, you didn't have enough time because you just dug yourself this ginormous hole, and there was not one sign of life in that first half. Probably the worst half they've played all year.
Absolutely. I think it is for sure. This segment, of course, is brought to you by our good friends over at Athletic Greens. Head over to athleticgreens.com/garden, where you can take care of your health if you haven't already. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/garden. You get 5 free travel packs of vitamin D and, of course, a year's supply. And that's just because you're watching us. That's athleticgreens.com/garden if you haven't signed up already. Bobby, Jason Tatum said that this team has to get back to, or rather, they have to learn how to win again. What do you think he means by that?
I think the little habits, connecting play to play, being on the same page, doing all the little things they did earlier in the year. You're not seeing the go-ahead plays as much. You're not seeing the off-ball screening, the connectivity. Pacers were blowing up the pick and roll early that Rob was involved in. And again, Rob's been a big boost, but I think his return is a smaller but important part of this, getting him organized within the flow of the offense. He had a great game, I thought. Putbacks, energy plays. But we've watched the Celtics this year. They're not a team that chases offensive rebounds and gets their offense that way, or double teams at half court on defense, trying to force some turnovers to get out on the break. They were pressing. They were overcompensating in this one. So for them to just run their offense in the half court, be that team that's scoring 120 points per possession like they were to start this year, that's who they are. Great shooting, great spacing, all the things they've talked about all year. I don't know where that went. I don't know why things disconnected. probably some of these deficits, guys pressing to work them back in it.
Is it overconfidence, Bobby? Because look, I said this on the Celtics postgame show, and I really do believe that this team may need one more good beating in order for them to
Minnesota
to relearn how to win again. Yeah, honestly, because when you think about it, Bobby, if you're one of these successful Celtics players, right, who, and I say that because of what happened the first month of the season, a couple of months into the season, you saw what happened last year, the turnaround. Do you think that maybe they're taking this for granted because they're thinking to themselves, man, if we just got out to a better start, we would have beat those guys? But it's much more complicated than that, though, right?
That's what it sounds like. It feels like they're going too much into the micro and saying we did this well,
right,
we did that well, and not focusing on how this is festering or guys' confidences are taking hits. I mean, Derek White goes 0 for 7 in this one. Hauser. Nice 3 during that comeback stretch, but he hasn't been the same guy. Brown has diminished in his play over the last couple weeks here. It feels like it's going on down the line. That's where Tatum, the leaders of this team, Smart, try to get it done. They got to integrate these guys and give them easy looks and let them get back on their feet. Because, yeah, Tatum can put his head downhill and score 41 like he did in this one, but no one came along for the ride with him, and that's why they end up losing here. Haliburton's getting everybody involved on the other side. Yeah,
plus the 3-point shots and, of course, the rebounding. That went a long way for this Pacers team. Bobby, finally, before we get out of here, Jalen Brown, another tough performance from Jalen. We don't know exactly. Maybe you have some more insight into this, but if he elected to not speak after this one, we were told he was going to speak. He never made it up to the podium. Jason Tatum did, but Jalen Brown did not. Are you concerned at all about where Jalen Brown's head is right now?
Yeah, a little bit, because I think that's where a lot of his struggles usually stem from. And he talked about that earlier in the year during his big turnover spell on that New Orleans-Atlanta trip around that time of the year. And feels like he's making similar mental mistakes right now. So he got banged up in this one a little bit too. I'm sure the decision not to speak was his, and I'm sure there's a lot of frustration there that he just didn't want to bring to the podium. So that stuff happens, but I want an answer on how this team's going to respond, or what they're working on, or what they're working toward, because it just doesn't seem to be hitting them hard enough. In fact, Malcolm Brogdon got asked, "Is this locker room shaken by this stretch?" I forget exactly what the word was, but it was something to that effect. And he just said they're disappointed. They're not shaken or rocked or whatever you want to call it right now. So it just kind of feels like they're chalking this up to missed shots. And again, I don't like that. You got to be able to persevere a little bit. And to their credit, I will give them credit for that second half. They almost came back and won after erasing a 30-point deficit. I do think that's important. And they figured some stuff out there. But overall, they haven't done a great job answering this spell, the struggles they've been going through right now.
Well, we'll see how the Celtics bounce back here at TD Garden Friday night against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Joe Mazzulla giving his team the day off Thursday, so we'll see how that helps them. Maybe just being away from basketball for a bit to regroup on Friday night to take on the Timberwolves before, of course, Christmas Day special here at TD Garden against the Milwaukee Bucks, which, of course, should be a good one. But first things first, the Timberwolves Friday night here at TD Garden. And, of course, we will be here. CLNS Media will be in the building. The Celtics, once again, drop a big one against the Indiana Pacers. And I say a big one because the final score just doesn't tell the whole story. But it's 117 to 112. I am Josue Pavon. He is Bobby Manning. And we'll see you guys next time.